What's going on, gang? This is the Extreme Featurette channel. I'm Chris. I have a Creekside review for you today. We have the mallard right here over my shoulder. There's a couple bumblebees next to me in the lamb's ear. So everything's pretty chill out here today. It's a beautiful July day. Enjoying it. A couple Code Red flicks to review. We have Dirty O'Neill, The Love Life of a Cop, and The Violent Breed, which were sent to me courtesy from Code Red via Kino Lorber. These are both brand new 2K masters, which is really exciting. I know that this is the first time that The Violent Breed was available on disc. Not sure about Dirty O'Neill, but this is from Orion Pictures, and this is a Canon film. I believe that this was acquired by Canon. It wasn't made in-house, but nonetheless, those are some pretty exciting names to be throwing around. The only special features on here are trailers on each of them. But what can you really ask for? You know, you got a new 2K scan, so the picture looked really good on both of these, which is, I mean, more than, you know, you can say for the tape that it was available on previously, that I certainly didn't own it. I don't know about you, but this is the first time watch for both of these for me. Let's just go chronologically. We have 1974's Dirty O'Neill. This is starring Morgan Paul. It was directed by Howard Freen and Louis Teague, which Howard Freen was actually Leon Capitanos. He went by the pseudonym Howard Freen. So there's a weird, you know, little factoid for you. Morgan Paul plays Jimmy O'Neill. He is our sleazy cop, and I think that the idea here was like, hey, let's take Dirty Harry and make it really dirty. So it's, at first I thought that it was just like a softcore porn, but it was more than that. I thought that I wasn't gonna like it at first because the first couple acts are really just like weird little snippets. It's not even, it didn't feel like it was developing anything. Somewhere in the second act I figured out, okay, all of these little snippets of scenes are supposed to be setting up the fact that this is a sleepy town and the cops are basically sitting around screwing all day because there's no crime in this city. It's not even a city, it's like a little village or something. So that's what all these scenes are supposed to be setting up. I'm not sure if Jimmy O'Neill's supposed to be new on the force or if he's just supposed to be the young hot cop in town. He's definitely that because he is the one that gets all the chicks. Sometimes he's with his partner and sometimes he is working solo, but this movie is chock full of innuendo, double entendre. It is just sleazy as hell. Like, he pulls over this girl that's just walking and he's like, oh, that's a moving violation. And she's like, oh, take me alive. It is just so many like cop sex puns, which is everything that I was hoping for, quite honestly. This guy is getting so many babes that he has a calendar and he'll put like the name on the day of the week that he has sex with them. And then like you're looking at his calendar and some days he has like 4 names in one space. And I'm like, get it, Jimmy O'Neill. So that's what we have. That's kind of the setup. And there's just so many creepy characters. Like there's the guy that's like up on the building, you know, they have to talk him down off the ledge and he's dressed up as a gorilla. There's that. There's, you know, like there's sexy nurses. Jimmy O'Neill happens to be a girls basketball coach, so that was hot. He says like, oh, the sheriff wants us to be involved in the community. There's this one scene where there's this pervert that's peeping in the window down at the girls changing in the locker room, and obviously all their tits are out because if you don't know anything about girls' locker rooms, we're always nude in them 100% of the time. The hooters are just swinging in there. So that is what we have in this scene. And this guy's peeping on him and they're all just talking about like how hot Jimmy O'Neill is. And ooh, I just want to screw Coach O'Neill. And like, you know, they just, it's high school girls talking about how they want to have sex with their coach, which I'm sure that conversations like that probably happen. I know that they do because I see the news, but that's what's going on here. And they actually like set up this weird, the girls are at like a sleepover and they set up this weird like scheme to get Officer O'Neill to show up to the house because they want to like trap him and have their way with him. And it's just very, very sleazy. There's so many examples. It's so funny too. There's a lot of humor in it. There's one scene where there's this old married couple and they're just having a marital spat. And Officer O'Neill shows up before they start fighting for some reason. And they're just like, the wife is like, she puts eggs in her husband's pants for some reason, and he like puts milk or something or flour, like just like, you know, arguing with each other and swearing at each other and insulting each other and putting food all over each other. Like, and then for a minute I'm like, okay, are they about to get it on like in this pancake mix too, or what's going on? But that was interesting. I laughed a lot during that scene. There's a scene where Jimmy O'Neill goes undercover and he dresses like a female nurse, and he runs into a real nurse, and they are approached by a pervert, and he like flashes them. There's a girl that pops out of a cake, and then everybody at this bachelor party tries to rape her, so she hides in a closet with Jimmy O'Neill. These are just the random scenes that keep occurring like one after the other, and they're not really making a lot of sense. And for probably the first half of the movie, I'm like, what is the point of this? Like, is this really just a softcore porn where it's like, okay, here's supposed to be a scene where they're banging, and that's just kind of like, okay, cut. But no, there was actually a story. Once you set up the fact that this is a sleepy town and Jimmy O'Neill gets all the women, there is a story. There are some hooligans that go into a diner, cause some chaos. There's some hard R in it, and then, you know, we'll see what happens from there. I'm not going to spoil it. I think that's all you really need to know to get a feel for Jimmy O'Neill. See what I did there? But I really enjoyed it. If you are a fan of sleazy movies, especially sleazy cop movies, it's quality 70s sleaze. Like I said, there's not really a lot of story going on until the latter half, but it's worth seeing all the sleaze in the beginning and the build-up. It's very fun. A lot of really fun innuendos, and the theme song at the end it's pretty amazing. So I would suggest this for any fans of sleaze. I think that it's a necessity, really. Next up, a decade later, we have The Violent Breed. So if Dirty O'Neill was like a vague ripoff of Dirty Harry, then The Violent Breed is a vague ripoff of Rambo. So that was pretty much what it was inspired by. It's a bunch of people with guns in the jungle blowing stuff up, eventually. That's what we have. So this is, I absolutely had to have this because it's directed by Fernando de Leo. I love him. I love everything that I've seen of him so far. And this was, you know, I don't want to knock this movie too much, but this is by far the most disappointing of his films that I've seen. I would say if you're a completionist, you should get it, but don't go into it expecting his normal cinematic gold. Like I said, this was acquired by Canon Films, which is pretty cool. It starts with 3 soldiers in Vietnam, and the leader gets injured, and he's telling them that, you know, the trope, oh, leave me behind, forget about me, save yourselves, and they're like, oh, we're not leaving without you. So his soldiers save him, I guess. It fast forwards to like the future. I don't know how long is supposed to lapse in between that, but the leader and one of the guys, Mike, who was played by, I don't even know who he was played by. Mike is played by Harrison Mueller, so there you go. So he and his former ranking officer are traveling to Southeast Asia in the jungle again because they're trying, and it doesn't even, I don't understand what they were doing. Like, they're no longer in the military. Like, did somebody just hire them? Like, is this some rogue operation and they're just going over there? But I think that they were with the government, maybe. Like, the government hired them as, like, you know, operatives. But so they're going over there to fight the KGB in some drug bust or something. So there's this gang that has taken over this corner of the jungle, and the gang is led by their former buddy, one of the 3 from the beginning, Polo, which is Woody Strode, who plays Polo. So he is like the gang leader in this area, and he's just ruthless. Like, it shows him just killing people at a whim just because they upset him. And there is this madam in the middle of the woods with all of these like young girls. She has these local underage hookers at this house, and she basically is there to serve Polo's guys. Like, they're her clients, and she's just constantly giving them underage girls. So when these Americans get there, Mike and his partner now, she's like told to set up Mike with a girl to show him a good time, right? So she sends in this girl, and he's like, hey, beat it, kid, I'm supposed to be meeting someone. And she's like, oh no, it's me. And he's like, oh yeah, real funny. So Mike does not want to have sex with an underage girl, and they just basically sleep. Like, he's like, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. And that's what happens. By the way, Mike looks like Brett from Flight of the Conchords. So he like encourages this underage prostitute to get out of that life and stuff. And then in the end, he ends up like falling in love with her, which was really strange. But I mean, I guess weirder things have happened. So, but I'm not really sure what the entire story was supposed to be. Like, they're there and then something happened. I don't even remember because I watched it a couple weeks ago, but they tried to like ambush the gang that was like totally set up there, and they basically end up having to set up camp in this like madam's house. He has like explosives and guns and everything, and it's really just him, the madam, and the young prostitute, and they're trying to fight off this entire like mafia type army. And at that point, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So the story was very confusing and convoluted and not really all together. Like, I feel like there's major plot holes in it, and you're not really supposed to watch it for that stuff. I think you're just supposed to watch it and watch people like play with guns at the end. So that's pretty much the feel of this movie. I did kind of go back and watch it again to see if I missed anything, but it wasn't me. It was just there's weird stuff that happens. So if you go into it, don't expect a flawless plot or anything. It's just supposed to be a fun jungle militia type movie, and that's what it is. So yeah, it's kind of sloppy. The beginning, like the first 2 acts were very, very slow. Like, until you get to the end with all of the explosions and the gunfights and stuff, the first 2 acts were so incredibly slow. There was some really brutal stuff, like with Polo and his guys, but overall it was just kind of jarring. Polo was really good. He was intense, he was menacing. I thought that he was a scary dude. So overall, you know, a lot of explosions. I would suggest this to cheesy action fans. If you like your action, you know, like not the best quality, like trashy action, this is for you. Or even Italian movie completionists. If you have to have every Fernando de Leo movie, this is one of them. You gotta have it. So I think I'm gonna keep it in my collection just for that fact, just because I love Fernando de Leo. Even though, like I said, this is, I feel like it's his weakest movie that I've seen. But still, it's fun. It's a fun watch. It's just a brainless, like, hey, let's watch these idiots in the jungle blow stuff up. And I would suggest it for that. There you have it, another review in the books. We have some 70s sleaze and some 80s Italian action, and I very much appreciate you watching. Thanks to the mallard for his cameo, thanks to the bees for not harassing me too much, and thanks to you for checking this out, and I will see you next time.